Now, a story that should not die. The Epstein files. Millions of pages, powerful names, global political aftershocks, and a question that still haunts the world. Who was protected and who is not? The latest release includes emails, flight logs, letters, and documents showing Jeffrey Epstein's ties to politicians, business leaders, tech figures, and royalty. Many after his first conviction in 2008. The context is explosive because the documents show Epstein as an active contact even after he was convicted. Let's take it person by person and break down the controversies as reported. Now, let's start in the UK. Andrew Windsor Mountbatten. The files show his name on hundreds of times. The documents include emails suggesting Epstein offered to introduce Andrew to a 26-year-old Russian woman. There's an invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace and a mention of contact long after Epstein's 2008 sex crimes conviction. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing, but these files have intensified pressure from UK officials to cooperate with investigators. Now moving on, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. The files show a handful of emails between Musk and Epstein about travel and social events, including mentions of Epstein's private island. One email suggests Musk asked, "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" in the year of 2012. Musk, however, has denied ever visiting the island, flying on Epstein's jet, or attending his events. He says the emails are misinterpreted and being used to damage his reputation. Our former president, Bill Clinton. The files show the president traveling on Epstein's private jet and meeting him at the White House. Clinton's team says he ended ties with Epstein after his first criminal charges in 2006. No victims have publicly accused Clinton of any sexual crimes, but the sight of his name in this release is incendiary. Crown Princess Mette-Marit of Norway appears. The Epstein files reveal extensive contact with Jeffrey Epstein long after his 2008 conviction. Her name appears in emails and documents from 2011 to 14, including personal and flirtatious messages. Files show she stayed at Epstein's Palm Beach home for several days in 2013. The Norwegian Prime Minister has acknowledged her poor judgment. The Royal Palace says she regrets the contact, but critics warn it damages the monarchy's image. And now the most controversial name on the files, President Donald Trump. The latest Epstein files have plunged President Trump into controversy. The documents include an FBI tip sheet with unverified allegations from the public. One claims a girl aged 13 or 14 was sexually assaulted in New Jersey and also abused by Epstein. The FBI contacted the caller, but no outcome is recorded. Other tips allege sex trafficking at a Trump golf property in California in the mid-1990s. The FBI deemed the complaint not credible, however. Additional extreme claims include Trump being complicit in the death of a newborn child. There is no evidence and no charges pressed, however. Several tips also reference Mar-a-Lago events. Many claims could not be verified or were not pursued. Trump did say he cut ties with Epstein long before his arrest and denies any wrongdoing. The DOJ cautions the files include unverified and potentially false material, some submitted before the 2020 election and never substantiated. Beyond these big names, the files list about 150 people with varied degrees of connection. In some cases, they're associates, in others, social contacts, but not all indicate illegal activity. Survivors of Epstein's abuse have called for the latest release of the files a failure of justice. They say the men who abused them remain hidden and protected even now. In a moment of truth, these files show not just connections, they show power close to the edge of reputation, law and privilege. And they force us to ask, when the world's most powerful are named in a scandal like this, who pays the price? Joining us now is Alison Mutler, the former Associated Press bureau chief in Romania. She joins us live from the capital now, Bucharest. Thank you very much, Alison, for joining us. Of course, let's start in the UK after these files have been released. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, of course, formerly Prince Andrew, and the Norwegian princess have been named in these files. What do you think that reveals about the privilege and oversight in these monarchies in Europe?
First of all, we have to say quite fairly, they are targets for people as debauched and criminal as Jeffrey Epstein. He sought out their company because it would give him, an allure of respectability, of privilege himself. He thought attaching himself to the royal families would shield him. And we learned that that is true because Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, former Prince Andrew, was apparently left alone because it was a very sensitive issue, I understand, by the British intelligence services. And why has it taken so long for the Crown Princess of Norway's name to come out? So I think Jeffrey Epstein targeted these people, first of all, to give himself some sort of social, very high level, that what he craved. He was just an ordinary guy at the end of the day. He wasn't nobility or aristocracy. But also he thought if he associated with that level of social sort of level of social class, the British and the Norwegian aristocracy, it would actually protect him, which it appears to have done. But the problem is now he's dead. He killed himself, as far as we know. And now we have these two, particularly in the case of Prince Andrew, who's been thoroughly disgraced. He's had to move out of his home. He's lost his name. He's lost his title. And now the Norwegian Crown Princess comes out. So they are now having to deal with what they tried to hide for so many years. And I'm sure there'll be a scandal in Norway. I think Norwegians will not accept this, and they will think it's absolutely disgraceful that their Crown Princess had exchanged flirtatious messages with him, and also benefited. She got to stay on one of his properties in the Caribbean. So the fallout is continuing, is affecting these two royals, and that's the only two we know about so far, long after his death. But it's clear also these two cases we're talking about, the former Prince Andrew and the Crown Princess of Norway, did have poor judgment, because obviously they are a target for people as criminal and debauched as someone like Jeffrey Epstein, but they are supposed to have better judgment, and they didn't, and now they're paying for it.
And US President Donald Trump is arguably the president of the most powerful nation on earth. How do allegations in the Epstein files challenge Trump's credibility and America's moral authority on global justice?
Interesting question, because had this been 10, 15 years ago, I think it would have been even worse. I mean, these are appalling. Of course, they've damaged his reputation, but his reputation has never been that good, particularly as far as women are concerned, and perhaps illegal or legally great business deals. So obviously it doesn't help Donald Trump, and it's absolutely appalling that America, which still sees itself as the leader of the most powerful free nation on the earth, to be embroiled in such a debauched and illegal scandal. But that said, standards have really gone down in the last 10, 15 years. So it's not as shocking. It's a terrible thing to say, but it's not as shocking as it would have been, say, 10, 15 years ago, say, under Obama. But it is. Obviously, it's another headache for Donald Trump. He's desperately tried to prevent all this information, all this scurrilous details, debauched details coming out, but he hasn't managed. Again, of course, there are questions. Was there legal wrongdoing? Did that happen? And he's denied that. But these are also like damage people's social and political reputation. It's not necessarily about legality, because obviously being associated with a sex offender of the global level that Jeffrey Epstein was is about the worst thing that can happen to somebody's reputation who is in the public domain.
Of course, and in the global context, these revelations expose the ways wealth and power can manipulate political, legal and social systems. How do we navigate through this?
Well, I think it's and it's an expose of the modern age. We show how people who perhaps publicly are opposed to each other, who are rivals, and people, but what ties them together is their privilege. They are rich, they are powerful, they're influential people, and we see people, you know, in the intelligence domain. Jeffrey Epstein contacted, I understand, Israeli and British intelligence to get to access Gaddafi's frozen funds. So you see this kind of web at the highest global levels between politicians, business people, entrepreneurs, and royalty as well. And it's frankly shocking. It's what many people have suspected but never been able to prove. But this is a case for the modern age that lays it out bare, that this is exactly what happens or can happen behind the scenes. And these are people, if you look at Bill Clinton, you look at Donald Trump, you look at the former Prince Andrew, you look at Peter Mandelson, for example, you look at the Israeli Prime Minister whose name appeared last year. These are people who thought they could act with impunity and that they were beyond public scrutiny and they were beyond legal judgment. Whether there will be some legal recourse is another question, but they have been totally socially and publicly disgraced by their connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
Alison Mutler, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a great pleasure to talk to you on these issues.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay.
Well, that's all for this episode of Deep Dive. Stay tuned on NewsX World for more international news updates. Thank you.